Hello students, my name is Dr. Weldon and I'm honored to be teaching this class today. Today we'll be covering a topic in the airline industry, more specifically in the budget-conscious airline industry, Frontier Airlines' competitive advantage, and seizing the opportunity left by Southwest. This is a rather large deal in the airline industry, considering there's not many budget-conscious airlines, and when they are competing, it is relentless. We will be talking more extensively on how Frontier Airlines is capitalizing on Southwest policy changes to gain market share. We will be going very specifically into that and how this policy change by Southwest is shaking up the market. Their policy change is they normally would allow two free check bags, but instead now they are only offering one free check bag. So we will be talking about that a lot today. Now, the purpose of this class today is to not just analyze the effects on the industry, but more of the effects on the specific companies, especially budget-conscious companies. We're especially going to analyze how Frontier Airlines is taking advantage of Southwest strategic shifts. Southwest strategic shifts being their elimination of the two free check bags into one free check bag. We are also here to discuss how Frontier Airlines introducing two free check bags affects their revenue and how does this trade-off work for each company. We're also here to discuss how competitive strategies can impact market share and customer loyalty. So how do these changes in strategy, how do they affect Frontier's, say, share of the market, and how many new customers are they bringing in rather than just holding on to loyal customers? And how many loyal customers are they stealing from other airlines, such as Southwest, for their decisions? We're going to look at that. We're also here to examine how business decisions create ripple effects across an industry, more specifically the budget-conscious industry, but we may dip a bit into how this affects the entire industry. We will get there. The airline industry landscape is a very complex idea to grasp, but there's really one important detail that you need to know. The U.S. airline industry is extremely competitive, with low-cost carriers like Southwest and Frontier fighting for budget-conscious travelers. These are travelers that are more concerned about the amount of money they're spending than what they are getting out of the money they are spending. So they care less about the conditions of their flight and more about the flight being cheaper and more affordable for them and their family. So they can take hits like losing their seat choice or maybe losing a check bag or something like that. But the important thing in the airline industry is that these low-cost carriers must balance cost-cutting measures with customer satisfaction to remain profitable. This is the hard part. They must work extremely hard to improve their revenue while also still keeping their customers satisfied with their flight conditions and their flight amenities. Say like Southwest cutting a free check bag might affect how customers make their decision in the future, as Frontier can offer low prices and you still get the same amount of free check bags. So this is just the kind of stuff you need to mention. This is a major policy change by Southwest. They have introduced checked bag fees. Southwest is eliminating its 2 bags fly free policy starting May 28, 2025. You may ask, how is that such a big deal? Southwest has built its brand on free check bags and an easy boarding experience. If they leave this identity, customers who have been relying on that identity may not be so tempted to stay and might try to find somewhere where their money is being used better in their opinion. This change marks the shift away from what made Southwest unique, creating potential dissatisfaction among loyal customers. I've already been over that. Competitors like Frontier now have a window of opportunity to attract Southwest's budget-conscious customers. This is a big deal for Frontier and Southwest, as this can permanently change up their market share and create loyal customers for both airlines or maybe not both, but if Frontier can behave correctly and if Southwest can recover from what might not be the greatest idea they have ever had. But we will see how it unfolds, and we will talk about our predictions. Now, we might also ask, why is Southwest making these changes? Well, we believe it's financial pressures and investor influence. Rising operational costs and pressure from activist investors like Elliott Investment Management are forcing Southwest to prioritize revenue growth. This means trying to bring in as much money as possible, really not considering what they are losing in the long run. And introducing baggage fees could generate over $1 billion annually, which is of course, a major revenue boost. But this does bring competitive challenges. You were kind of, in a way, creating more competitors for yourself by trying to worsen your policies. But that's just how it is in this industry. It's very complex, as I said. Other airlines, including Delta and United, already charge for checked bags and have assigned seating. You may think this was a good thing, but not anymore for Southwest, as they have lost their edge in that department. Southwest's unique model was an outlier, and these changes bring it closer to industry norms, but at what cost, such as their customer base and their market share? Did they eliminate what got them to where they are now? Perhaps yes, but that does not mean that it will take them back to where they were before. It just maybe means it's time for a change, and we will see how this affects Southwest in the long run. And we will dip more into what the market reaction to Southwest changes. There will be significant customer backlash, such as many travelers specifically chose Southwest for the free baggage policy and open seating. Well, this seems to be gone. What will these travelers think? Possible customer migration to alternative budget carriers, including Frontier. This is a huge possibility and probably the biggest concern for Southwest, other than people just moving up their money to a higher up airline and more luxurious airline. But customer backlash will be significant, and I'm interested to see how it pans out. Now, competitive response is a much larger and different beast. Other airlines are watching closely to see if Southwest strategy succeeds or backfires. This includes Frontier and Spirit and other budget-conscious airlines, smaller ones. They will be watching very closely to see how this policy affects their revenue and how it affects how many customers they lose, especially, because that should be Frontier's main concern, and Spirit. So if this works out for Southwest, you can expect Frontier and Spirit to be following close in their footsteps if there's not that much of a loss for Southwest. Some competitors like Frontier are seizing the opportunity to poach Southwest's disgruntled customers. This is assuming that Southwest customers care plenty about the baggage policy and open seating, overly. So they are assuming that they will steal plenty of the market. And it will be very interesting to see if they actually do, and that if Southwest customers actually care about that much for the free baggage and open seating. But it'll be very interesting to watch. But competitor response is definitely the most important part, and that will affect the industry the most. Of course, other than how the customers choose to spend their money. Now let's dive deeper into Frontier's strategic response. Frontier is the other budget-conscious airline, probably Southwest's largest competitor. So they will be going toe-to-toe, seeing how this affects the market. Frontier's counter is the free bag promotion. Not only the fact that they are offering free bags, but they are promoting it and encouraging customers to purchase their airline tickets for the free bag and other options. Now, the promotion details is Frontier is offering free checked bags on flights from May 28th to August 18th, 2025. But only if your flight is booked by March 24th. This tells us a lot about the situation, because clearly Frontier isn't quite confident enough to go ahead and fully commit to the free check bag, the extra free check bag. But they're trying to see how exactly it'll affect the market and their market share in this small window as being booked by March 24th. So they're trying to see what happens in that small window of time to help make their decision going forward. This is a pretty big deal. Now let's look at the additional perks they're offering. They're offering free carry-on bags, so 2 free carry-on bags, free seat selection, and no fees for flight changes. This is a lot of incentives for travelers to move to Frontier. So in this small window, Frontier will get a lot of information about just how many people will switch. And of course, travelers only travel at a certain time of year, so that has an influence, but we'll get some good numbers to see how many people switch exactly. Now, why exactly is this a smart strategy? It directly targets Southwest customers who are upset about the new baggage fees. So we're going back to that slogan, divorce your old airline. They're trying to poach Southwest customers over to Frontier, hoping to create loyal customers. Now, it also reinforces Frontier's position, as the more affordable low-cost option. That's a pretty big deal because Frontier was already low-cost and already competing with Southwest, and now they're throwing more on top. So is this going to move Frontier? This is going to move Frontier further down into the budget-conscious category and move Southwest further out. So we can see that clearly here. And it also encourages travelers to try Frontier, potentially converting them into long-term customers. We've already talked about this. So we're trying to pull customers from Southwest and make them permanent Frontier customers. That's exactly what they're trying to do. And they're going to get some good numbers from this experiment they're trying. Now let's dip deeper into Frontier's marketing approach. They launched an aggressive advertising campaign with the slogan we've already mentioned, divorce your old airline, a direct appeal to unhappy Southwest customers. Now it should be kicking. Social media, email marketing, and targeted ads promoting the free bag deal. That's just modern marketing. We know everybody's going to do this now, but for it to be so aggressive to Southwest is honestly, it's very impressive and it's very admirable, in my opinion. They're also using comparative messaging, highlighting Frontier's commitment to keeping costs low while Southwest raises fees. This is a textbook marketing strategy used since we were all kids. Emphasizing Frontier's straightforward pricing with fewer surprise fees. This is moving themselves farther down the ladder, making fully doubling down, committing to being a budget-conscious airline, as they should, rightfully so. And this advertising is also going to have, though it has an effect on Frontier, it's also going to have an effect on Southwest and what people think of Southwest if they're watching these ads. So Southwest is going to be moving up more as more of a luxury airline, but not quite, but you know what I mean. Moving up there and just making themselves look more Delta-ish. Now, students, let's get into Frontier's competitive advantages. One of their competitive advantages, or the competitive field, will be customer acquisition. Their promotion incentivizes Southwest customers to try Frontier. So they want to promote as much as possible to Southwest customers independently. Now, if travelers have a good experience, they may switch permanently, and this is the main idea. This is the goal for Frontier. This is best case scenario is customers switching permanently and becoming loyal customers to Frontier and all of their incentives and promotions. Now, Frontier is trying to create brand differentiation. It reinforces Frontier's identity as a low-cost leader with value-added services. Now, this heavily differentiates them from Southwest, who they were once not very different from. So this should shake up the airline industry quite a lot. And it also positions Frontier as a better alternative to Southwest specifically, because customers were going to Southwest mainly for their special incentives like 2 free checked bags. Now Frontier might be taking those customers who valued that so much. And it'll definitely increase, or should definitely increase, their market share expansion. Even if only 5% of Southwest customers switch, that is a major revenue boost for Frontier in the grand scheme of things. Now, this also expands Frontier's footprint in the budget airline sector. Strictly in the budget airline sector, not only the entire airline industry, but more specifically, and it will have a bigger impact in the budget airline sector for people who care more about how much money they're spending on flights and all the extra fees. Now, let's get into the risks and challenges for Frontier. The sustainability of the free bags promotion. Will customers stay after the promotion ends? Or will they be able to put the promotion back out there and maybe make it a permanent thing to hold on to these customers, since these customers might bring such a massive revenue boost for Frontier? Can Frontier maintain profitability while offering these discounts? This is probably the hardest question for Frontier, because we know that they're trying to see how many customers they can take from Southwest, but if they're going to be able to offer these 2 free checked bags to so many customers, it will most likely break even, if not profit, for them. But we will have to see how these numbers pan out. Now, the operational capacity for Frontier is also another big concern. The demand. Can Frontier handle the demand if too many customers switch at once? This should be a huge concern for Frontier if their plan works perfectly how they want it to, because they aren't the largest airline. So if they pull in too many customers, will they be able to supply all of them, or will they create more angry customers and customers that won't ever try Frontier again because they can't get a ticket? Who knows? This is a big deal. Now, competitor response will also be interesting. Will Southwest or another airline counter Frontier's promotion with a better deal? They have to worry about the other budget-conscious airlines and see how they respond to Southwest's change. And maybe that'll affect how they make decisions about how they'll sustain the free bag promotion and whether or not they will or not. What does this mean for the airline industry as a whole? Well, it will have a huge impact on pricing models, and it could push other airlines to rethink baggage policies. If this policy works amazing for Frontier, what reason do other airlines have to not try it? If they're better than Frontier in every other category except one or two, like checked bags, then maybe if they just offer this, they can take all the customers from Frontier and Southwest. And it may lead to increased price wars in the low-cost segment, specifically in the low-cost segment, because they're competing for the more budget-conscious travelers, of course. And it will have potential changes in customer loyalty trends among specifically Southwest and Frontier, and maybe other airlines that also don't offer 2 free checked bags. So Southwest has one of the most loyal customer bases, but can it retain them after the policy change? To sum it up, Southwest policy change creates an opportunity for competitors. It opens the door for plenty of opportunity for competitors to try to take their customers and make them loyal customers of their own airline. Frontier is responding aggressively with promotions and service upgrades, directly attacking Southwest's customer base. Now, the airline industry is a dynamic beast, and companies must constantly adapt to remain competitive. The United States airline industry is a tight, compact industry with few companies. So it'll have a whole effect on the grand scheme, and the grand scheme will affect Frontier specifically and Southwest, but it will be a mess of Southwest's own making and with Frontier throwing fuel on top of the fire. Now, I want you to take a thought for the road and look at how the airline industry pans out over the next few months and see how this affects Southwest. So keep this in the back of your mind. Will Frontier's strategy work, or will Southwest find a way to hold on to its customers? It will be very exciting to find out how this works out for Frontier and Southwest, and if it really has as big of an impact as we really think it's going to have, or if it just kind of fades into dust and nobody really cares about it. We will see. Now, I want you all to take a few more questions for the road, and I want you to give them considerable thought, not just throw them to the side and give the most basic short answer you can. Give it some effort. Do you think Southwest policy changes were necessary? Now, this doesn't mean, do you think they had to do it to stay above water? Do you think they were necessary to increase revenue? Do you think they were necessary to increase the overall success of the business? Now, another question, will customers actually switch to Frontier and stay? Will they become loyal customers? This is a mix of an opinion and essence question. So just answer carefully. I'm curious. And what would you do if you were Southwest's CEO? How would you respond to Frontier's aggression and policy change? And how would you respond to however this affects the airline industry? You don't know. But how will you respond to Frontier's blatant aggression and attack on your customers and your supply of revenue in the industry? I'm really curious to see y'all's answers, and I really appreciate y'all coming to class today, paying attention and listening, and I hope you all have a blessed day, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you.